What's up, everyone, and welcome to the 9th episode of the Control Freak Podcast, the only Magic the Gathering podcast devoted to all things Control in the modern format. I am your host, Alex Blackard, or at LessAlex on Twitter. If you enjoy the content, make sure to follow, like on all of your podcast apps, and on YouTube. Today's special guest is going to be giving us a little bit of a peek behind the veil of competitive MTG. Usually on this podcast, we're breaking down metagames, current strategies, and sideboard tech. But today we have Joey Pasco. Joey, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Joey is a former SCG Tour commentator. He is a host of one of the first Magic the Gathering podcasts ever on Yo MTG Taps, who his co-host is Big Head Joe. He's at Affinity for Blue on Twitter. It is fair to say, Joey, that you're a devoted Blue player.
For sure, yeah.
And additionally, we have you and I just personally kind of have some things in common that I wanted to reach out to you and kind of get you on the cast. This is definitely kind of a little bit different of a show for the Control Freak podcast, but we're both sports ball fans, we're both fathers, and we both like photography. So that is a couple of the reasons why I wanted to get you on. And we have a pretty interesting connection, too, from a little tournament back in 2013 that we'll definitely get into in a couple of minutes.
Awesome.
But yeah, to get things kicked off, no pun intended with the sports ball. It was a bad one. That's a dad joke.
No,
right?
I think that was fine. I mean, that was good.
But to get things started, what is your current thoughts on the current modern metagame?
I'm pretty excited about it right now. We have a lot kind of making the format, really shaking things up in the format. We've obviously got Modern Horizons, which, did its thing with Hogak for a month. And then now that Bridge from Below is banned, we can kind of go forward with the London Mulligan and really see what this set has to offer for Modern. And I think it's going to have a pretty big impact. I feel like Bridge from Below being banned, I think that was the right call.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, I mean, something needed to kind of happen to weaken that deck, but I like that they left most of the pieces alone so that people could kind of explore this archetype.
Yeah, and
so I think that was the right call.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I had Francesco Amati on, and we kind of discussed what cards would potentially get banned, and we both came to the same conclusion that it was probably best to be Bridge. So yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of forget that we get these BNR announcements like every 6 to 8 weeks or something. So we have another one coming up at the end of August. If it's really, if that wasn't enough, we've got a month and a half to see if that was enough to weaken the deck, and they can make a change at that point. So start small, start with Bridge and see, go from there is kind of the way I see it.
Yeah, and it was definitely the one card too that was like a tactical, like it doesn't nuke any other decks, right? Because everyone was calling for Faithless Looting, but I was like, it kills too many decks, like. It's kind of a pillar at this point.
And I think so too. And I think I don't feel like Faithless Looting really deserves to get the axe. I wouldn't hate if it happened, I don't think, because I think it would shake up the format, I think, quite a bit.
Sure,
but we've got that happening right now anyway.
Yeah.
So, we have at least save it for a year from now or something when maybe the format seems stale again. If that's what we need to, do, then do it then. But it's not really that egregious, I don't think. And I think they made the right call. I think Modern is really exciting right now. I'm curious to see how the London Mulligan pans out in terms of once the metagame starts really developing and becoming more and more defined.
Yeah, I totally agree. I know that a lot of people are kind of concerned because of Hogak's dominance the Neoform deck wasn't really able to take too much percentage share of the metagame like everyone thought it would. But now, with the Hogak quote-unquote ban and London Mulligan, what are we going to see here from this Neoform deck? It's going to be interesting.
Right. And we've got this Mythic Championship in Barcelona coming up in a couple of weeks, and that could be the coming out party for Neoform decks. And if it is, look a month ahead, a month from then, with the next BNR announcement, we might be seeing Neoform get hit. Maybe not Neoform the card, but the deck.
Yeah, maybe Allosaurus Rider, because that card just came out of nowhere and was just...
Yeah, I think that's what I would hit. Yeah. I totally agree. It's kind of like the Bridge from Below of that deck, where
absolutely.
It's like no one else is playing Allosaurus Rider.
And
this is only in this one deck, so I guess we'll see.
It's almost like a weird force where you got to pitch a couple green. Like, it's just a strange card.
It is.
But so in the current meta, Bridge from Below's banned. We're in a current meta game, post Bridge, post Modern Horizons. Where do you see Blue-White Control going from here? Do you like it where it's positioned?
I liked it better with Hogak in the format.
Which is like...
I think it's weird, right?
It's so weird, because I hated that. I was like, man, that deck's a real bummer, right? For the whole modern ecosystem. But...
Exactly, but it homogenized it. So you had this format that became so compressed and only had a handful of decks, or maybe 10 decks instead of 30 decks, and so that's where Control thrives. It's like, instead of having to have answers to 30 decks, I only need to have answers to 10 decks, and that's why you saw Blue-White start to really pick up, and you saw it win the first GP for Blue-White.
Yes.
In Dallas. So I think yes, Blue-White gets kind of worse right now when the metagame sort of opens up again and it's more volatile, and I think so. It's not well positioned, but I don't think it's bad. It's just harder to figure out. And right now, with a metagame that's becoming or that's less defined, it's hard to figure out what answers you want to put in your 75 and have available. So
definitely,
I still maybe cut one Rest in Peace from the sideboard and stick with the rest of the graveyard hate, because Dredge is certainly still a deck.
Dredge is absolutely still a deck, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that kind of pivots us into the next topic. We do have our first big tournament post Hogak, or I keep saying Hogak ban, but our first post Bridge from Below ban, and wouldn't you know it, Dredge is the deck that took down the 131-person MCQ at Magic Fest Krakow. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that
Krakow.
Krakow. Okay. In Magic Fest Krakow. Yeah. So Dredge took it down.
With one copy of Hogak. Yeah, with one copy of Hogak in the main deck.
Yes.
I think it's over. I think he cut a prized amalgam and then played the Hogak in that slot.
Yeah, that's kind of like the tension, I guess, that people were talking about, how many prize amalgams were going to be played with Hogak, because obviously Hogak slots pretty easily into this deck. I mean,
it's just one of those things where with Dredge being such a tight list, you start going, well, what can we cut to put this busted card in our deck?
Absolutely. And I anticipated that the number would be 2. 1 is fine.
Right. I mean, obviously people could add more. As we go further into this format, more and more Hogaks may start showing up in Dredge, but it can't be. I don't know if they would go with all 4. I think 1 to 2 is right.
Yeah, 1 to 2, maybe if you're feeling frisky 3.
Sure.
But the notable thing in this top 8, and to your point, is that there was no Blue-White Control to be seen, and we've only got the top 8 lists at this point. They haven't done a top 32 breakdown or anything, but Channel Fireball has released the top 8, and it's Dredge, Izzet Phoenix, Eldrazi-tron, Jund, Humans, Titan Breach, Mardu Pyro, and good old-fashioned Mono Green Tron. So 8 different, just 8 decks. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's diversity.
It is awesome.
Hooray, we don't have, 5 Hogak decks or whatever.
Yeah, so. It's really cool. I think it's so funny. Like, I'm not a fan of Jund, but I love seeing that it's good again, even if I'm not a fan of it myself.
That's so funny you say that, because I'm the same way, because like that is like Jund versus blue-white is like just haymaker slugfest, right?
Right. It's Jace versus Bloodbraid Elf.
Jace versus Bloodbraid Elf, exactly. And like this new iteration of Jund playing Seasoned Pyromancer and Wrenn and 6.
Wrenn and 6, yeah.
It's a rough matchup now. Like it used to be kind of 50-50. Now I think the blue-white versus Jund matchup might be skewed in their favor now.
Yeah, it's tougher, and I think it's making me want Spell Snare over Spell Pierce, where I had just that one slot where you've got like maybe 1 to 2 Spell Pierces or Spell Snares, and I'm shifting back to the Spell Snare because Wrenn and 6, because I was going to say Tarmogoyf, for Jund. You got that Dark Confidant has been cut from the list in a lot of, but
which is crazy to think of. That card's insane, right?
Yeah.
But
but I do feel like the Spell Snares need to come out of the box and get back into the deck.
Gotta dust them off, man. Gotta dust them
off.
And I mean Jund, but so when Jund's good, at least in my mind, I think that the format's pretty good.
The format's good. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Like if Jund is a good deck, the format is in a healthy place, because Jund is a fair deck.
Yes.
It's a grindy deck. It's a resource denial, or not a resource denial deck, but it's just very heavy on trading resources and then grinding you out. And that, if you can do that in Modern successfully, I would say that Modern is pretty healthy.
Yeah, and the fact that it is there gives me hope that blue-white can get to a top 8.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
we had Hogak dominating, but you had Jund and blue-white win the last 2 big tournaments.
Yep.
The GP Dallas that we mentioned, and Jund won that one of those Red Bull Untapped Modern tournaments.
Yes.
So even with Hogak around, Jund was doing work. So Modern Horizons, I guess, is partly to thank for that.
Oh yeah,
I'm excited.
I mean, Wrenn and 6s are like $75 or something.
Oh my gosh, and they're like even more online, I think.
Yeah, it's wild. And Seasoned Pyromancers, I think, are like $25-$30. So definitely, Horizons has definitely made an impact. I had a Jund opponent a couple of days ago recur their Peatland, and they drew an extra card for like 4 straight turns, and I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah,
I'm supposed to play Teferi, Hero Dominaria, and just draw 2 cards every turn until you run out of resources. But I couldn't keep up with it because I didn't have any Planeswalkers on the battlefield. So, But no, Jund is a real player. Of course, Eldrazi Tron, at the last Modern Challenge that Hogak was legal, it took, I want to say, 4 of the top 8 spots were all Eldrazi-tron. Like, that's insane.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I even saw that.
Yeah, it's insane. And of course, Eldrazi-tron is popping up here. Of course, with Karn, the great creator, and going to find the lattice, those shenanigans are always going to be a thing now in Modern.
Yeah, I guess so.
It was kind of funny too, because before Horizons came out, everyone was calling for either Karn or Lattice to be banned, and now you don't hear that talk anymore.
Not at all, right? It's just back to Faithless Looting again, and and Bridge and Hogak and all that. But we'll see. It'll come back. It's like a cycle, like the metagame. Whatever the top decks are, pick whatever card. We're going to talk about Ancient Stirrings, Mox Opal, Faithless Looting. Which Modern card do we want to talk about banning next?
Yeah.
So
it's kind of comes with the format, I think, at this point now. Just gotta talk about banning something. One thing, in 6th place, the Titan Breach deck. You kidding me? Titan Breach is back. Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't expected that, but yeah, that's kind of cool to see another off the wall deck. I mean, I don't want to say it's too off the wall, but it's the tier 1.5, tier 2 deck. Previously, I think, or at least in the last few months, but here we have it in the top 8.
And 1 copy of Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn. Loving that. My one of my little secrets is I do like sneaking Emrakul into play. So
that's just a fun thing to do sometimes, you know. I was doing it mostly with Jeskai Nahiri a few years ago. When Nahiri was good. I guess because Nahiri hasn't been very good for a while.
Yeah, Jace kind of makes everyone take a back seat, right?
That's true. Especially when I'll take Jace anytime over Nahiri. Sorry, Nahiri.
Yeah. Jace the Mind Sculptor, better than all, right?
That's right.
So, this GP MCQ top 8 definitely showing that the metagame is wide open, and I think for your average modern player, having a diverse metagame is an excellent thing, right?
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of like pros and grinders would say, bring back Hogak. I want Hogak because I want there to be a clear-cut way to make day 2s and top 8s. But I think for your average modern player, being able to play the deck you invested your money into is a good thing. So
I totally agree. I think it's good for getting new players into the format also, not like new Magic players necessarily, but new players new to Modern, because friends of mine that are kind of, they usually play Standard. I can say, well, you really like this kind of deck, and this kind of deck is playable in Modern now, so play it. And I think that's good. It's harder to say that when it's like, well, it's Hogak or lose.
Yeah,
essentially,
It's either you're playing Hogak or you're playing like 7 to 8 graveyard slots like that.
Right.
Honestly, that was like the biggest hang up for me. It's like, man, because in Modern, your sideboard slots are so important. And having to devote for blue-white 4 copies of Rest in Peace just seemed like you were losing equity on every other matchup.
Right, and you were putting Surgical Extraction, usually 2 copies, in the main deck to basically save sideboard space. It's like, I don't have enough space in my sideboard. I guess I'm just putting these cards in my main deck. But, it worked, and at this point, I've moved 1 Surgical to the sideboard and cut a Rest in Peace, and that's kind of where I am right now. But because Dredge is still good, and I kind of feel like the Graveyard Hate still has the value. So I cut literally 1 card from the 75 post Hogak.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I actually never adopted the two main deck Surgicals because my meta in St. Louis is pretty fair. It's pretty fair meta, so I never wanted to commit to the 2 Surgicals, but I was playing 3 rips in the board and 1 surgical main, so
so you had almost as much.
We were towing that line, right?
Right.
So that kind of takes care of the whole modern metagame breakdown that I wanted to do with you. At this point, I kind of just want to get into some stuff about you and some stuff about like how our paths had kind of crossed in the past, but for right now, I mentioned that you are a father, as am I, and I know that finding time to play can be a struggle, at least for me. I don't know about you, but
it's very difficult.
Right. It's a tall task, but how do you play? Do you play paper? Do you play on Moto? Do you play on how do you typically play when you play?
I'm playing a lot more Magic Online than anything else right now because I just need to be able to find an opponent when I find a pocket of time.
Absolutely.
I can't schedule it so much or so easily. I have been trying to go to FNMs lately because some of our local shops have both Standard and Modern, and so that's kind of something where I'm like, once a month I can make it to FNM. Basically, my work schedule prevented me from really playing FNM for 9 years because I was working. My shift was 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., so that was just never happening.
Oh, wow,
but my shift recently changed, and I'm able to kind of twice a month I'm working from home on Fridays. So one of those days I'm like, okay, I'll be home with my family, and the other Friday of the month I can play FNM. So that's kind of the way I've worked it out so far. and I think I may try to get over to another local shop has Modern Wednesdays. I might start showing up there.
That's so funny that you kind of have every other Friday you kind of get to play, because for me it's every other Monday. I play at like a local shop here in St. Louis, and it's funny because every other week they know I'm gonna be there. So of course, unless something comes up where I can't, but and then for me, I just play online as well. Like, you got to get in the games where you can, for sure.
Absolutely. And for a long time, I didn't like Magic Online. I never really even got into it until around 2011 when I started doing commentary, because I felt like I needed to be able to play more frequently.
Yeah.
And that was when I started getting into it then, but it still didn't really hook me. And so I sold my collection in like 2012.
Yeah.
And never got back into it until I had a daughter and was like, I need to play Magic more often than like once every 6 months. This is terrible. So.
Yeah. No, I definitely understand that. So that kind of transitions us into the next question perfectly. How did you get into commentating for SCG back in the day?
So let's see, just to tell it kind of briefly, Joe and I started the podcast in fall 2009. I went on the Magic Cruise, which was a thing. I don't know if it's still a thing, but Legion Events used to have.
Yeah, I think they're trying to bring it back or something.
Yeah, like when I went on the second one. So the first one had happened. It looked like so much fun. So I went on that, and that was like January 2010. I met Evan Irwin there and Chapin, and I like interviewed them for the podcast. I interviewed like Ken Nagel.
Oh, wow.
And that was cool. Like I had all these basically Magic celebrities to interview on the cruise, and so that's kind of how I met them. And then there was like a GPDC in that May of 2010.
Yeah.
Evan was there. I actually was hanging out with Patrick there again because I was like, hey, remember me from the cruise? And that was cool. Like I ended up kind of touching base with them again. And I was talking to Evan about the possibility of our podcast going on TCG Player, because that was an offer we had at the time. And I was just asking him for advice because I was like, hey, look, you just like on YouTube, and then now you're working for Star City. Well, he then offered us an option to be on Star City, so that was completely unexpected, and it was awesome. And so we were on Star City for a while, and that winter he contacted us and said, hey, we're going to try to do this thing. They already had the Star City Opens at the time, but it was GG's Live that was broadcasting them, which is
I
Sean
remember
Miller.
that.
And it was cool. Like everybody was like, this is great. We can watch Magic tournaments live on the weekends. It was just so cool. And I guess I believe it was Evan's kind of brainchild to say, let's make this like real. Let's make this real official. Let's have like a commentary team, and we're going to brand it SCG Live. And so that's what he told us. It was this new thing, and did we want to be commentators? And of course we were like, absolutely. So my first event doing commentary was January 2011, and my co-host or co-broadcaster was Gavin Verhey.
Oh wow.
And it was super fun. And so that was how I got into it, and I did it for 3 years, basically all of 2011, 2012, and 2013, with my final event being the Invitational at the end of October 2013. And it was so much fun, and I would love to do it again, but the family kind of thing makes it even more difficult now. So I'm not sure if that's likely, but I would certainly be open to the possibility of it.
Yeah, Evan Irwin kind of just changed the game in terms of like changing everything over from text to video. I know he. Yeah. And I still to this day listen to Magic Mike's podcast. So
yeah, me too.
That podcast is, if you haven't listened, I'm obviously they're not paying me or anything. It's just I really like that podcast. It's a really good one.
They're a great like kind of catch-all for like the Magic community, Magic news. I think they don't delve deep into any metagames. They just talk about topics that Magic players tend to care about, and I love that, because some things, I don't even like. I'll get little bits of information on Twitter, and then when I hear them talk about it on Magic Mics, I'm like, oh, okay, now I see what people are so upset about or excited about, whatever.
Exactly, and they kind of they bring it in a way that everyone can kind of enjoy it. The spikes, that if you want to use that paradigm of the Spike, Timmy, and Johnny, like everybody, I feel like everybody can relate to that show. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not to get off topic and talk about Magic Mics for a long time, but it's a good podcast.
Go listen to it next.
Yes, go listen to it right after this one. So that's kind of interesting that you said your run for SCG kind of ended there at the tail end of 2013, because in the summer of 2013, I actually top 8'd my one and only SCG Open, and this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, where we have a kind of a connection in our past. Like you actually commentated with Adam Prozac, my 2 matches that were on camera in the top 8. So
yeah, it was cool. Like, you mentioned that to me, and I'm like, oh, great. Now I want to go back and watch them, because why not? So I did. I watched both matches, and you were playing like the Jeskai. Basically, it was more like a Jeskai mid-rangey flash deck, right?
It's Jeskai Geist is what I called it, and then of course SCG kind of called it Jeskai Control, which I played 4 Geist of St. Traps, which I'm trying to kill you quick as possible. Right. So, but yeah, it could definitely.
I don't even think you had many counter spells, because I remember the commentators, one of them, I don't know if it was me or Adam, pointed out that you only had like 4 counter spells main or something. But
Syncopate,
it wasn't
probably.
Like a super. Yes, it was Syncopate, and I think Dissipate was legal.
Oh,
then.
sure, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. So, but that was really cool to go back and watch, and it is funny to see current modern all-stars like Geist of St. Traps.
Right.
It's like, they were in standard. Did you just play Snapcaster Mage?
Yes.
Yes, Snapcaster. It was legal when Geist was legal.
Instead of Bolt, Snap, Bolt, it was Pillar of Flame, Snap, Pillar of Flame.
Right.
Which I actually did in that match. I pillared the Huntmaster and then pillared the token. So
no, it was burn. It was turn and
burn. Turn and burn. That's right.
That was gosh. Yeah. So you had double turn and burn in your hand, and it was like he played Huntmaster. You had Geist on the table, and it was like, oh, that's the best answer you could have drawn against a Geist. And and then you just had 2 copies of turn and burn to just deal with that, and take away the match.
Yeah. That match was, or that entire tournament was just like gas. I didn't drop a match all day, and then like just double drew into top 8. It was awesome, and it's super interesting that you were the one that commentated it. So as soon as I realized that, I was like, I have to have him on the podcast. And
I appreciate that, and I appreciate being invited on. I think I didn't know what prompted you to do that, but when you told me I had commentated your match, that was something I was excited to hear, because I don't really hear from many people that say, hey, I met you because, or not met you, but hey, you commentated my match. And so then I go back and look, like, did I say anything bad about them during their match? Like, did I imply that they made bad decisions?
It's funny, because you were the one that was like kind of I don't know, defending isn't the right word, but you were kind of like not on my side, but you know what I mean. Prozac was a little bit more aggressive not aggressive, but you understand
what
you
mean.
I'm saying.
Right, because as a commentator, you're trying to be unbiased.
Yes.
But when I am watching a match that it's like Jeskai or blue-white or something,
right.
It's hard for me to be like, yeah, I hope the blue-white player loses. That's not, it's just not something that I can do. So yeah, I could imagine that my bias might have come out, but it would be favoring you in this case.
Looking back at it, it definitely seems like if you told me your Twitter handle was Affinity for Blue, I'd be like, yeah, I can see that now.
Right.
So, and Adam Prozac, he works for Wizards now, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Yeah.
So
him, Gavin, like several. I'm trying to think who else.
I guess those are the only 2. Yeah. I was going to say all your former colleagues.
Exactly. It's crazy.
And I just want to point out, I'm the only person to ever register 2 Ral Zareks in the main and make a top 8 of any SCG.
That open. Is
to this day
something to hang your hat on.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
I think you might have that one forever. Really.
I think I might. Everybody was like, "Why are you playing that card?" So you play your Geist on turn 3. Like, the logic was sound, and I did it. You play your Geist, and then you tap their blocker on turn 4 with Ral, and then you attack for 6. Easy game, easy life. Magic's
right, or
easy.
just straight bolt them, right? And then they don't have the blocker. You're just like, bolt you.
Yeah, exactly. And I did flip a bunch of coins. There was a off-camera feature match that I ultimated Ral Zarek, took 3 turns, and in those 3 turns, played and ultimated another Ral Zarek and took another 2. So.
Oh my, that is disgusting.
It wasn't
in
on
like
camera.
The best way, right?
Yeah, it wasn't on camera though. I was so mad whenever I went home and searched it. It was on the backup match or whatever, right?
Oh, okay. So it was kind of on one of the feature match tables, but just not the one that they were recording or airing. Oh, that stinks.
Yeah, that I would have much rather. You could take the other 2 away, and
right?
You could just put that one up, and that'll be my little claim to fame, I guess.
That would have made that may have made like a best of SCG live
highlights, right?
Yeah, the highlight best of SCG tour. Yeah, they changed the name of it, but I can't stop calling it SCG live. But,
right.
Yeah.
And then I got completely smashed in the semis by Gene Richmeiser. He was playing Naya Blitz, and I mean, I missed my 4th land drop. He passed back, and I cast Supreme Verdict to Wrath, and he had the Boros Charm to protect all of his creatures, and then I died the next turn. So rough.
That was rough. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I talked to the guy who won. He was like, "I'm pretty sure you have an excellent matchup against me." It was the what is it? The Aristocrats deck that was there at the time. Okay. Yeah. So if only I would have hit my 4th land drop, right?
Right. It's all about that one. That one land.
What could have been? No.
Right.
So kind of switching gears here. And speaking of switching gears, Wizards has changed a lot over the last, 6 to 9 months of how they are doing competitive play. How do you kind of feel about the changes that Wizards of the Coast has made, kind of transitioning from the pro point status to now the MPL?
It feels like they're trying to do something. It feels like they're trying to improve things, but they're doing it in such a way that doesn't actually. It's not working out, and they're not being clear. And I think it makes it really hard to have any real concept of what they're doing and who is this for. Like who is this for now? Like you have the MPL, which when they announced it, I thought it was exciting. But
same. I was hyped. So,
but I just don't feel like I'm not that interested in it. It's strange. Like I know I'm never going to be one of those players. I have no misconceptions about that. But I also don't feel like I have any interest in following it as it stands, in terms of the top 32 players. And on the other hand, for years I've followed competitive Magic. Yeah. So I don't know what's wrong. Like I can't pinpoint why I am not interested in the MPL the way I was interested in competitive Magic for, 20 years and the Pro Tour Hall of Fame. And I think I'm just trying to figure out who is this for? Like, what are all these changes they're doing? Who is it benefiting other than, I guess, Hasbro's pockets? And I don't even know if that's the case, but it's just seems like that might be what it is that they're
definitely seems like at least the MPL and an arena in general, right, has definitely propelled the overall awareness of Magic's brand, right? But in terms of specifically the competitive play, I feel like your silver and bronze level pros who are no longer considered pros,
right?
What are they to do now? Like where they've been grinding, there's grinders out there who've been Christian Calcano comes to mind and is the perfect example. Yeah. He finally top eights a pro tour. Either it was late last year or early this year. And then now they flip the script and everything up is down, left is right. And what is he to do? He's invested pretty much his whole adult life, and many people like him haven't invested their entire adult lives into grinding this thing that they wanted to achieve, and now it's just Thanos snapped, gone.
Right, and I don't know what to expect from Wizards now because they aren't being very forthcoming with information. It seems like they either wait till the last minute or they're just not clear, and it's very much benefiting streamers who are already popular, usually from other games. At least that's what it looks like. It's kind of I haven't done the research and done any math and counted like who's really like a Magic player or who is typically a player of another game and has thousands of viewers and let's try to get them to play Magic so that we can get people to watch Magic. Like that's what it seems like. But it takes away this entire you've just kind of left a whole bunch of people out in the cold and they don't even know how to get back in.
That's the issue with me, is like if you're going to make all of these changes and you're going to define this is a pro, this is what it takes, these top 32s are pros, everyone else is just kind of, you can call them semi-pros, you can call them whatever you want to call them, right? Contenders, I think, is what they're going with. But what do they do? Like, because now you go to a GP, the only reason to go to a GP is the money. You do get a Mythic Invitational, I guess, if you top 8. But, like, there's no...
They've kind of taken away all the prestige.
Prestige. Perfect word. Yes, exactly.
I mean, Star City Open, the Star City events seem much more appealing in terms of if you want to play a competitive event and have
build
kind
a
of
brand.
Maybe, you get on camera. Like that's something that a lot of people, that's a goal. Like I would love to just do well enough to get on camera at a Star City event. Like you can't even do that at most GPs now.
Yeah,
because they don't have the camera.
Oh my gosh, the fact that they kind of, I'll say it, they did mislead the Magic community when they said all of the Pro Tours are going to have $500,000. Several of them are going to have $750,000 purses. And we were like, when I first heard that, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the best time for Magic ever. Press pause. Actually, we're taking away all the budget that was out there for the GPs and the coverage from the GPs, and now we're just kind of shuffling the money around. It feels like they're like laundering money to the MPL.
Yeah. Yeah,
not actually laundering money, but you get my point.
They've just reallocated their resources.
Yes.
But I don't feel like I like their new allocations, and I kind of feel like a lot of people feel that way. But again, and I kind of similar to what I said earlier about banned and restricted announcements. Like they can always change things. They can. A lot of times, I think, as a community, we get very upset about things, and it's almost like we think everything is permanent and it's just always going to be this terrible thing. And Wizards says, you know what? We've heard your feedback and we're going to try something different. And they'll try something different. I mean, look at like how the standard rotation changed, where it's like, well, it's this many sets. Now it's this many sets, and that didn't work. Let's go back to the old way kind of thing. So
and the F&M promos, and then they weren't promos. They were tokens for a minute, and then they went back.
Right.
So
they're willing to change things, and if this isn't working, and of course I think that all really just comes down to the bottom line in terms of money. If it seems like they're making more money as a direct result of these changes, then we aren't going to see changes. But if people stop going to GPs, and then which seems like it's happening.
I mean, so I actually saw on Twitter there was 350 people at the American GP this weekend. At GP, was it Detroit? No, it was, I forget which one, but...
I can't remember either. If it's not on camera, I forget.
Yeah, exactly. So 350 people for a limited GP is abysmal.
That's pretty terrible. That's like, I feel like that's 2004 numbers or something, like numbers from 15 years ago when the game wasn't as big.
Yes.
But I don't even know what the numbers were then. I'm just pulling that out of my, I don't know.
Statistics. We don't need statistics on this podcast. No.
But no, it just feels like that's just not normal for a Grand Prix circa 2018. But now that we're in 2019, these Grand Prix are just shrinking,
going down,
they're not very grand anymore.
Yeah, no, exactly. Maybe that's why they changed the name to Magic Fest.
Yeah, I guess so.
No, and I think same person on Twitter said that between the SCG and the GP, there was less than 1,000 people who registered. Like, that's insane to me. Yeah. That's like you were saying, that's like a good 2017, 2016 GP. It was like 1,000 plus. And now we're getting less than that for SCG and a GP. That's wild to me.
Yeah, it's something's got to change, and hopefully they're looking at numbers and figuring out how they could improve, and I think they always are, but
definitely.
Hopefully we'll see more communication. I guess that's the one thing I would really hope for, is more clear communication with plenty of advance notice, because that's another thing. It seems like people are trying to make travel plans and don't even know, like, hey, in 3 weeks, am I supposed to be somewhere?
Right.
Like, should I be booking a trip or no?
Well, Joey, there's a survey you can take that'll explain everything, and that's how they gather their information. Don't you know?
I took that survey. I don't think it said anything about.
It didn't say anything about anything really relevant. It's like, who's your favorite streamer? I was
right.
And I typed in Magic Mike's. I was like, Magic Mike's is great.
There you go.
So that actually kind of brings me to my next thing that I wanted to talk about is, how do you feel about the Wizards play network now and the route to Pro Tour or MPL versus how SCG has kind of complemented that or changed how they do things, if you kind of put them up against one another?
I mean, I think if you put them against one another, Star City just feels like it's so much more streamlined, very clear. You have very clear goals for Star City. Now, I couldn't say them off the top of my head,
sure,
but I could go find the information
the fact is that it's there, right? We can go and look, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And I think with Wizards, it's really gotten the communication has just gotten so poor that it's kind of unclear what you're supposed to be doing, besides, like, I guess I just have to play Magic a lot and do well. Yeah, that's the best you can do at this point, because otherwise you don't know how every win or loss affects you, how each tournament result affects you, and it's just not it's not a good place for organized play right now, and it's a shame, because I think they're trying to do something different. I just hope they figure it out.
What really gets me too is, like, for years, I mean, for decades pretty much, Wizards of the Coast had the best organized play of any. I mean, we had other games like taking exact methods that we do and implementing it in their games, and now we're trying to, like, use Hearthstone's, and now Hearthstone's changing it to be more like Magic's from a couple years ago. So, like,
it's a mess.
We're flip-flopping, we're flippy and we're floppy, and it's just not great for anyone.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. Is SCG, you can get on in SCG, and this kind of goes back to talking about Evan Irwin, is they are great about building players up. You're not selling cards, you're selling these larger than life characters almost.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you want to build a brand, I definitely agree. Like, SCG is the way to go now. The Pro Tour is, I mean, it's hard to get
undefined.
On. Yeah, it's undefined.
I feel like
anyone can go to an open and get on camera and do well, and then build from there.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, you look at a player like Dylan Hand. I think
absolutely
was like, I feel like he started playing on the Star City circuit like early 2018, so like a year and a half ago, and has built his brand from there. Now he's the humans guy. You like, you want to play humans in Modern, you can actually go to his Patreon and get whatever information he feels is relevant, and that's fantastic. I mean, he built the brand, whereas I think before 2018 he was just kind of somebody who did well at his local shops. I don't feel like I heard of him until last year, but that's just an example of how you can build your brand from Star City, and completely that has nothing to do with the Wizards organized play path to whatever being in a video with Sir Mix-a-Lot or whatever it was, that commercial that they did.
And Danny Trejo was there, like, yeah.
Yeah, it's just random, but yeah, so that's just one example.
Yeah, I mean, we could name a bunch of them, but I think you hit the nail on the head there, because he was, I mean, late 2017, early 2018, he really started putting up some results, and
right.
I mean, we're talking about him on a podcast, so he's
exactly.
he's obviously doing something right?
Absolutely.
Cool. So I mean, for the most part, I definitely agree with you. It just SCG's always doing the right things, it seems, and having
seems like they keep the players in mind a lot. They really focus on the players and benefiting the players.
And one thing, so it used to be a couple years ago, if you won the Players Invitational for the SCG, you would get a Pro Tour invite. Now that's not the case.
Yeah, I don't know when that changed or how that changed. There was, I have kind of a cloudy period where I wasn't focusing so much on Magic at all. So I know I heard about that, but I haven't heard about it in a while, so I assumed it was no longer happening.
Yeah, no, I don't believe it is, and I just question not the how, but the why. It just makes sense, right? Your other biggest, most prestigious tournament series can't get an invite off of a 16-person prestigious tournament? Like,
exactly.
Where's the disconnect? Like, I get it that Channel Fireball is running the GPs now, but I mean, come on, that shouldn't be that much of a, a disconnect.
Hurdle. Yeah, big. Exactly. I don't think that should matter.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that we kind of talked about that quite a bit. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about, you are a proud member of the Ravens flock.
I am.
And even though I am based out of St. Louis, I am a Browns fan. Cleveland Browns. Once Stan Kroenke ripped my heart out of my chest and took the Rams, I couldn't. A lot of people actually in St. Louis still do support the Rams, but I can't financially support that team and that man.
I totally understand. I mean, as a Baltimore native, when I was a kid, we lost the Colts, and some people switched over to like the Redskins because that was the closest team, and some people still stuck with the Colts. But a lot of people just didn't have a team, or picked 49ers, I think, because like at the time Joe Montana was so good and it was easy to jump on that bandwagon when you didn't have a local team. But this is what I remember from my youth. I was very young, and I never got into football until I was 20 and playoffs for the first time. And I thought, I'll check this out. Like, I don't really care about football, but I was curious because I was looking for something to listen to. I had a job that I was in the car a lot, and I was like, I'll listen to the playoffs, because this is the year 2000 where there was no iPhone. It was like CDs and cassettes and the radio. That was it.
The Rams won the Super Bowl that year. So, sorry, 99 into 2000.
Right. So now this is that fall.
Yeah,
because when the Ravens made the playoffs, the Ravens won. So it was a good time for me to jump on the bandwagon, and I mean, it hooked me. So
you've been
deeply.
You've been on the bandwagon since.
So
basically with the Browns, my buddy is and he's from Cleveland, and he's a huge Cleveland sports fan. He loves Ohio State, loves Cavaliers, loves all, Indians, everything. But the Browns, I was just like, well, what team am I going to root for? I don't really have a team. And he's like, dude, just come on over. Just come on. We got you.
There's plenty of room on that bandwagon.
Especially at the time, boy, they were bad.
Right.
This is way before Baker. This is way before Myles Garrett. Like, they were very, very bad. And I was like, you know what? I'm used to losing. This is great. The Rams were terrible for a decade, so I was like, this is easy. This is easy transition for me. So, and I've not been a Browns fan long, but I've been very supportive, even through the season. They went 1 in 15.
I think right now, this season, going into the season, the Browns are probably the most exciting team to kind of see what's going to happen because of just how many roster changes and just huge pickups they got over the off season. Yeah. So it's scary as a Ravens fan for sure, and it's like, I don't know, is this going to be one of those, like the situation with the Eagles? I feel like, I don't know how many years ago it was, maybe like 7, when they looked on paper like the best team in the league, and I think they finished, average. Yeah. They may have made the playoffs, but I don't think they were as good as they looked, and I'm just hoping that's the case for the Browns. Sorry.
But no, you're and that's like the thing. I like wear Brown shirts and like hats and stuff, and people be like, say something snarky. It's like, really? You're gonna make fun of the Browns fan? That's not even like, what are you doing? Like,
I'll say that, like
wearing a Patriot. You're wearing a Patriots shirt, dude. Like, come on.
Right? Yeah. Nice Patriots shirt. Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, that's the easiest bandwagon to jump on ever.
It's like, dude, you live in the Midwest. How are you a Patriots fan other than being a bandwagoner?
Exactly. So I think for me, as a Ravens fan, if the Ravens can't win the division, I would like to see the Browns win the division. So I'll say that. Because, the Browns have been so bad for so long, I kind of would like to see a team like the Browns do well. I prefer to see teams like kind of rise up and do well than keep winning Super Bowls every year, every other year. The Patriots are getting old. I'm kind of like, can you just cut them out of the league?
We're looking at you, Tom Brady and company.
Yeah.
I think we can both agree, as long as it's not the Steelers.
Sure, yeah.
I have hated the Steelers long before I was a Browns fan.
I mean, in terms of hated teams, I mean, I do have to stick with the Patriots on that end. I'd rather see the Steelers win the Super Bowl than the Patriots. Yeah. Because I'm just tired of the Patriots. But then it's, Steelers right after that. So
for sure. The lesser of two evils when you compare them to the Patriots, for sure.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
But we'll see. Yeah, I'm excited about the Ravens this season too, because it's a weird season for us, having traded Flacco away. Yeah, it's a big change for us, and it's hard for me to even think about the Ravens without thinking of Flacco and Suggs, and it's like they're not Ravens anymore, So it's weird to think like, well, who is still left of the Ravens that I know, and it's just like Marshall Yonda, and that's it, but it's exciting too, because Lamar Jackson seems like, just such
he's good.
Dynamic player, and I just hope he can improve on what we saw last year, and we don't see something like what happened in the playoffs where the Chargers just figured him out and shut us down entirely. I mean, until I think we started near the end of the second half, but it was too late.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to see where we go from here. But I was a huge Flacco fan, so it's hard. Not that I don't like Lamar also, but I was a big fan of Flacco.
That's like whenever Kurt Warner left, it was like, oh, what am I gonna try and support this Bulger guy? Like, you got that emotional attachment to, he won a Super Bowl for your city. Like, that's normal.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. We'll have to. I'll have to have you on a later episode, like middle of the season, and see how things are shaking up. Middle of the NFL season.
That'll be fun. Yeah, and we can see how Modern is shaping up at the same time. See if Blue-White has made any appearances since now.
I certainly hope that by then we can get at least another GP win, maybe even a PT win. That would be.
Yeah. If it's hovering in some top 8s, I'll be happy with that too, because I don't want Blue-White to be the best deck, because then everybody gets
targeted.
And then it gets targeted. But I want it to be good.
Yes, same. Good enough to where people aren't making fun of me for my playing my guild gates, or as I like to call them, celestial colonnades.
Right. And your Browns hat and your Browns shirt. I mean, you're just such a target.
Yes. Oh, that's good stuff. Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's really the whole episode. I appreciate you coming on and talking.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Talking some Modern. We reminisced a little bit. Again, everyone, thanks for listening. If you do enjoy the content, make sure to go on over to all of your podcast apps and follow. And of course, this is on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button there. And if you really want to support, you can go to the Apple Podcasts app, give me a 5-star review, and say some kind words on there, just a couple sentences. I do appreciate everything, and any kind of feedback, positive, is always appreciated. Joey, do you have any parting words for the fine folks?
No, I mean, thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and if you want to check out my podcast, we are bi-weekly, and you may be able to hear my daughter actually just shouting from the background. She just came home. But yeah, so we're YoMTG Taps, and you can find us on Twitter at YoMTG Taps, and you find me on Twitter at Affinity for Blue. And yeah, I guess I'm sure that you'll have some links in the show notes that people can follow, and rather than me just reading out web addresses. So.
Yep. So as always, everyone, I'm Alex Blackard, or Atlas Alex on Twitter. Thanks for watching. And be kind to one another, Magic players. Have a good night.